It was my 32nd birthday today. I woke up and checked my phone like a reflex. There was nothing from my father, Thomas. No text, no call. Just a forwarded email reminding me that the final deposit for my sister Chloe's huge engagement party was due next week. He is spending $20,000 just on the flowers for her. It didn't surprise me. For 32 years, I have been the invisible daughter in the Miller family. But today, something inside me finally snapped. I was done waiting to be seen. I didn't cry. I didn't call my mother, Dana, to vent. Instead, I drove 3 hours north to a small, quiet lake house I had been watching for months. I met the agent, signed the final papers, and handed over a cashier's check. It was every cent I had secretly saved from years of working overtime. Standing alone on my new dock, looking out at the peaceful water, I finally felt like I could breathe. I took a picture of the keys in my hand and posted it online with a simple caption, "Birthday gift, self-gift." Then I turned my phone off. I knew exactly what would happen when I turned it back on. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? You do not decide to cut off your family in a single afternoon. It takes years. It is a slow process, like water dripping on a stone until the stone finally cracks. For me, that stone started cracking when I was very small. To understand why I bought that lake house, you have to understand who I was in the Miller house. I was the other one. I was the draft copy before the final masterpiece. The masterpiece was my sister, Chloe. My father, Thomas Miller, was a man who lived for an audience. He didn't just walk into a room. He announced himself. He was loud, charismatic, and handsome in that way that demands you look at him. He loved expensive things. He loved expensive stories. And most of all, he loved things that reflected his own glory back at him. I did not reflect his glory. I was quiet. I was studious. I had messy hair and scraped knees, and I liked to read books in corners. I was not a show pony, as he once jokingly called Chloe's friends. Chloe was different. She was 2 years younger than me, but she took up twice as much space. She was blonde, bubbly, and knew exactly how to laugh at my father's jokes even when she didn't understand them. She was his mirror. When he looked at her, he saw a pretty, shiny thing that he had created. When he looked at me, he just saw responsibility. He saw a bill that needed to be paid, a mouth that needed to be fed, but not a story he wanted to tell his friends at the golf club. The erasure started with the birthdays. I remember my 10th birthday vividly. 10 is a big number for a kid. It's the first time you feel like double digits matter. I had asked for a small party, just pizza and a few friends from school. My mother, Dana, had said yes. She was always saying yes to things in a vague, distracted way, provided my father didn't disagree. The day of my birthday, my father came home early from work. My heart jumped. I thought he remembered. He's here for me. He walked through the front door, loosening his tie, his face flushed with excitement. He didn't look at me. He looked right over my head at my mother. "Pack a bag, Dana," he said, his voice booming. "And get Chloe ready." I got tickets for the Lion King musical downtown. Best seats in the house. A client canceled. "We have to leave in 30 minutes. I stood there in the hallway, holding a deflated balloon I had been trying to blow up. My mother looked at him, then at me. I saw the hesitation in her eyes, but it was weak. It was a flicker, like a candle in a hurricane. "Thomas," she said softly, "it's Aubrey's birthday. We invited the neighbors' girls for pizza." My father stopped. He finally looked down at me. He didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed, like I was a traffic jam making him late for a meeting. "It's just pizza, Aubrey," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We can do pizza any night. These are front row tickets. Do you know how hard these are to get? Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish." That was the phrase that defined my childhood. If I wanted my father's time, I was selfish. If I wanted him to come to my parent-teacher conference instead of Chloe's dance recital, I was jealous. If I cried because he forgot to pick me up from soccer practice, I was dramatic. That night, they left. They took Chloe, who was jumping up and down screaming with joy. They left me with the babysitter, Mrs. Gable, who felt so bad for me she let me eat ice cream for dinner. When they came home late that night, Chloe was asleep in my father's arms. He carried her and like she was a precious jewel. He walked past my room without pausing. I learned the lesson then. I didn't have to be told explicitly. I just knew. In the Miller economy, Chloe was gold and I was copper. As we grew older, the gap widened. It became about money, but the money was just a symbol for love. My father measured his love in dollars. He wasn't a man who gave hugs or had deep conversations. He showed he cared by spending. When Chloe turned 16, there was a party at a hotel ballroom. There was a DJ. There was a chocolate fountain. There was a brand new convertible with a red bow parked in the driveway the next morning. My father spent the whole night with a microphone in his hand, making toasts to his beautiful princess. When I turned 16, 2 years prior, we went to a steakhouse. It was a nice restaurant, I can't deny that. But my father spent the entire dinner on his BlackBerry, texting a business partner. When the bill came, he handed his card to the waiter without looking up. "Happy birthday, kid," he said while typing. "Don't order dessert. We have to get back. I have an early flight. No car. No party. Just a steak I was too knotted up to eat." I remember asking my mother about it once. It was a rare moment where we were alone in the kitchen. She was chopping vegetables, her hands moving nervously. My mother was a woman who had shrunk herself to fit inside my father's shadow. She was terrified of upsetting him. "Why is it different for Chloe?" I asked. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Why does Dad do all this for her and not for me?" My mother stopped chopping. She looked out the window at the backyard, where my father was teaching Chloe how to golf. "Your sister, she needs more help, Aubrey," she said. It was a lie, and we both knew it. "You're so independent. You're strong. You don't need all that fuss. Your father knows you're capable. He worries about Chloe." It was a brilliant way to twist the knife. She made my neglect sound like a compliment. I was ignored because I was strong. I was forgotten because I was capable. So I became capable. I leaned into it. If I wasn't going to be the cherished daughter, I would be the perfect one. I got straight A's. I joined the debate team. I kept my room spotless. I never asked for money. I never broke curfew. I thought that if I was perfect enough, if I caused zero friction, my father would eventually look at me and say, "Good job, Aubrey. I see you." But perfection is boring to a man like Thomas Miller. Perfection doesn't need fixing, and if it doesn't need fixing, he can't be the hero. He loved Chloe's messes. When she failed a math test, he hired an expensive tutor and made a big show of getting her back on track. When she crashed her car, he swooped in to handle the insurance and buy her a safer one. Her failures were opportunities for him to exercise his power. My successes were invisible because they didn't require him. I remember my high school graduation. I was valedictorian. I had the highest GPA in the class. I had to give a speech. I had practiced it for weeks in front of the mirror. I wanted my father to hear it. I wanted him to see the crowd clapping for me. They were late. I was on stage, halfway through my speech, when I saw them walk in at the back of the auditorium. My father was on his phone. Chloe was whispering something to him, giggling. They sat down, but they were restless. After the ceremony, I found them in the parking lot. I was holding my diploma, the heavy folder feeling like a shield in my hands. "Did you hear the speech?" I asked. "We caught the end," my father said, checking his watch. "Good stuff. Look, we have to hurry. Chloe has a dress fitting for prom, and we promised we'd take her and her friends to lunch beforehand. You can come if you want, but it's going to be a bunch of teenage girls screaming." He didn't say congratulations. He didn't ask to see the diploma. He just assumed I would tag along to celebrate Chloe's prom preparations on the day of my graduation. "I'm going to go with my friends," I said. "Suit yourself," he said, already unlocking the car. "See you at home." I watched them drive away. That was the moment the invisible daughter truly settled into my bones. I wasn't just invisible. I was convenient. I was there to fill out the family photos, to be the boring backdrop that made Chloe shine brighter. I realized then that I was alone. I had a mother, a father, and a sister, but I was an orphan in my own house. I stopped trying to impress him that day. I stopped trying to be loud enough to be heard. Instead, I went quiet. And in the quiet, I started to plan. When I left for college, I expected things to change. I thought distance would make the heart grow fonder, or at least make the neglect less painful. But distance just clarified things. It showed me that the only effort in our relationship was coming from my side. I went to a state university 3 hours away. I had scholarships, so I didn't need to ask my father for tuition. He loved that. He bragged to his friends about how thrifty and sensible I was. Aubrey's got a good head on her shoulders, he'd say at Thanksgiving, clapping me on the back so hard it hurt. Doesn't cost me a dime. He said it like I was a low-maintenance car. Good mileage, cheap repairs. Meanwhile, Chloe didn't go to college. She wasn't ready. She wanted to explore her creativity. My father funded an apartment for her in the city. He paid for her art classes, her modeling portfolio, her trips to Europe to find herself. I was working 2 jobs while taking full credits. I worked in the university library during the day and waited tables at a diner at night. I learned the value of $1 because I had to earn every single one. I remember calling home one Sunday during my junior year. I was exhausted. I had just finished a double shift and my feet were throbbing. "Hey, Dad," I said when he picked up. "Aubrey, make it quick," he said. "No hello. I'm helping Chloe move into her new loft. You wouldn't believe this place. Exposed brick, view of the skyline. It's fantastic. I'm thinking of buying the unit next door as an investment." "That sounds nice," I said, looking around my dorm room, which was the size of a closet. "I just wanted to tell you, I made the dean's list again." "That's great, honey," he said, his voice distracted. I heard him shouting instructions to movers in the background. "Careful with that sofa. It's Italian leather." He came back to the phone. "Look, I gotta go. Chloe's stressing out about the paint color. We'll talk later." The line went dead. I looked at my phone. "We'll talk later." We never did. After college, I got a job in logistics. It wasn't glamorous. I managed supply chains for a mid-sized manufacturing company. It was spreadsheets, inventory, and deadlines. It was quiet work. My father didn't understand it, so he ignored it. "Aubrey pushes papers," he'd tell people. Chloe, on the other hand, had started working in PR. By working, I mean my father got his friend, who owned a firm, to hire her as a junior associate. She planned parties. She went to galas. She posted photos of herself drinking champagne at noon. My father treated her job like she was running a Fortune 500 company. "Chloe is killing it," he'd say at dinner, while I sat there silently eating. "She organized that charity ball last week. Did you see the photos? The mayor was there. She's a natural networker. A real chip off the old block." He never asked me about my work. He never asked if I was happy. He never asked if I was lonely. But I was doing something he didn't know about. Because I lived simply. No expensive lofts. No Italian leather sofas. I had money left over at the end of every month. And because I had learned early on that I couldn't rely on anyone, I saved it. I became obsessed with financial security. To me, money wasn't about showing off. It was about safety. It was about the ability to walk away. I opened a high-yield savings account that no one in my family knew about. I called it my Freedom Fund. Every paycheck, I transferred 30% into it immediately. I didn't take vacations. I drove a 10-year-old sedan. I shopped at discount stores. I cooked my own meals. To my family, I looked like a bore. "You need to live a little, Aubrey," Chloe would say, looking at my outfit with pity. She was wearing a designer dress my father had bought her. "You're so rigid. Dad says you act like an old lady." "I'm fine," I'd say. "I like my life." And I did. Because every time I checked my bank balance, the number was bigger. That number was my secret armor. The older we got, the more the dynamic solidified. I was the service daughter. Chloe was the star daughter. When holidays rolled around, I was expected to come over early and help my mother cook. I chopped the onions, I basted the turkey, I set the table. Chloe would arrive 20 minutes before dinner, looking flawless, holding a bottle of wine she didn't pay for. My father would rush to the door to greet her. There she is, the life of the party. He'd pour her a drink. He'd sit her at the head of the table. I would be in the kitchen, washing the prep dishes, so we wouldn't have a mess later. One Thanksgiving, about 3 years ago, the erasure became total. We were all at the table. My Aunt Sandra and Cousin Emily were there. My father was in high spirits. He stood up to make a toast. "I just want to say how proud I am of this family," he began. He looked at my mother. Then he turned his beaming face to Chloe. "Chloe, you've had an incredible year. That promotion? Well deserved. You're making the Miller name famous in this city." He raised his glass. Everyone clapped. I clapped too. Then he looked at me. For a second I thought, here it comes. He's going to mention my promotion. I just became a senior logistics manager. I told him last week. He looked at me and said, "And Aubrey, thank you for the mashed potatoes. They're very smooth." That was it. My career, my hard work, my life, it was reduced to mashed potatoes. My cousin Emily looked at me across the table. She gave me a small, sympathetic smile. She knew, but she didn't say anything. No one ever said anything. We all just played our parts in the Thomas Miller show. That night, I went home to my small apartment. I didn't cry. I was past crying. I logged into my bank account. The number was getting close to 6 figures. Keep going, I told myself. Just a little longer. The final straw began to form 6 months before my 32nd birthday. My father started talking about Chloe's engagement. She wasn't even engaged yet, her boyfriend hadn't proposed, but my father was already planning the party. It's going to be the event of the season, he told us. I'm looking at venues. The Botanical Gardens. Or maybe the Yacht Club. Dad, that's expensive, I said. It's an investment, Aubrey, he snapped. You have to spend money to make connections. This is good for the family, good for business. He looked at me with disdain. You wouldn't understand. You pinch pennies so hard you strangle them. I didn't tell him that my pinching pennies meant I had enough for a down payment on a house. I didn't tell him that I had been browsing listings online for a cabin by the lake, a place where the phone signal was weak and the air was clean. I kept my mouth shut. I let him plan. I let him brag. But I made a promise to myself. My 32nd birthday was coming up. I knew, with absolute certainty, that he would forget it. He was too consumed with Chloe's imaginary wedding. I decided that if he forgot, if he let the day pass without a single acknowledgement of my existence, I would buy the house. I wouldn't ask for permission. I wouldn't ask for advice. I would just do it. The week before my birthday, I went to view the lake house. It was perfect. It was small, with a wraparound porch and a dock that jutted out into water that looked like glass. It smelled like pine needles and silence. The realtor, a kind woman named Mrs. Higgins, walked me through it. It's very secluded, she warned me. Is that what you're looking for? Yes, I said. That is exactly what I'm looking for. I told her I'd let her know. I waited. I gave my father every chance. I waited until the clock struck midnight on the eve of my birthday. Nothing. I woke up the next morning. Nothing. I went to work. I received texts from friends, from coworkers. Even my dentist sent an automated happy birthday email. From my family, silence. At noon, my phone buzzed. It was an email from my father. My heart did that stupid, hopeful flutter. I opened it. Subject, forward, florist in voice, Chloe party Aubrey, print this out and bring it on Sunday. I need to go over the line items with some of these orchids seem overpriced. No, happy birthday. Just in order to do administrative work for my sister's party. I stared at the screen. The office sounds faded away. The hum of the printer, the chatter of my colleagues. It all went silent. I felt a strange calm wash over me. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I picked up the phone and called Mrs. Higgins. I'll take it, I said. I can wire the deposit today. I didn't reply to my father's email. I finished my workday. I drove to the bank. I signed the papers. That evening, I drove up to the lake. I sat on the dock of the house that I owned. My house. My name on the deed. Not Thomas Miller's daughter. Just Aubrey Miller. I took the picture. I posted it. Birthday gift. Self-gift. I put the phone down on the wooden planks of the dock. The sun was setting, turning the water into liquid gold. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with air that felt sharper, cleaner. Then the phone started to buzz. It buzzed once, then twice, then a continuous, angry vibration that rattled against the wood. The explosion had arrived, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the noise. I was just ready to watch it burn. The phone was vibrating so hard it was slowly moving across the wooden planks of the dock. It was inching toward the water. For a second, I watched it and thought about letting it fall. It would be easy, just a splash and then silence. But I didn't let it fall. I picked it up. I had posted the photo 5 minutes ago. In those 5 minutes, my family had gone from silence to chaos. I unlocked the screen. The notifications were stacking up on top of each other. I saw the group chat name, Miller Family Updates. This chat was usually reserved for my father bragging about his golf score or Chloe sending links to dresses she wanted. I opened the chat. Chloe, 7:02 p.m. What is this? Chloe, 7:03 p.m. Aubrey? Is this a rental? Chloe, 7:03 p.m. Hello? Mom, 7:05 p.m. Aubrey? Honey, where are you? Dad is asking. Dad, 7:06 p.m. Pick up the phone. Chloe, 7:08 p.m. Seriously? You buy a house? Today? Chloe, 7:09 p.m. We have the florist meeting tomorrow morning. You're supposed to drive me. I stared at the messages. Not a single happy birthday. Not one. I scrolled up to check the date on my phone, just to be sure I wasn't crazy. Yes. It was today. My birthday. They were looking at a photo of me holding keys, captioned birthday gift, and their only reaction was confusion and anger. My father started calling again. His contact photo filled the screen. It was a picture of him in a tuxedo, looking powerful. I declined the call. My stomach twisted, but it wasn't guilt. It was that cold, hard realization that I had been right all along. They didn't care about me. They cared about my function. I was the driver. I was the assistant. I was the background character. Background characters don't buy lake houses. They don't have storylines of their own. I walked back up the path from the dock to the house. The air was getting cool. The house was empty. I hadn't bought furniture yet. I had a sleeping bag, a cooler with some sandwiches, a bottle of cheap wine, and a camping lantern. I went inside and locked the door behind me. The lock made a solid, heavy thud. It was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. I sat on the floor of the living room. The floorboards were wide pine, stained dark. I leaned my back against the wall and watched my phone light up again. Dad, you're being extremely selfish. Everyone is worried sick. Call me immediately. I typed back. My fingers were steady. Me, I'm safe. I'm in my house. I will talk to you tomorrow. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb. That night was the first night of the rest of my life. It was strange. It was lonely, but not the bad kind of lonely. It was the kind of lonely that feels like space. I drank my wine out of a plastic cup. I ate a ham sandwich. I listened to the crickets outside. I thought about the money. The down payment had taken a huge chunk of my savings, but I still had a safety net. I had done the math 1,000 times. I could afford the mortgage on my salary. I didn't need them. That was the terrifying part for them. I didn't need them. I slept on the floor in my sleeping bag. I woke up with a stiff back, but when I opened my eyes, I saw sunlight streaming through trees that belonged to me. I saw dust motes dancing in the air of a room that belonged to me. I checked my phone. 47 missed calls. 12 voicemails. Most were from my father. 2 were from Chloe. 1 was from my mother. I listened to my mother's first. Her voice sounded thin and anxious. Aubrey, please just call us. Your father is well, he's very upset. He thinks you're having a breakdown. Just tell us it's a rental for the weekend, okay? Just tell him that. Call me back. She wanted me to lie. She wanted me to smooth it over. She wanted me to say, oh, silly me, just a weekend trip, so that my father's world would make sense again. In his world, I couldn't afford a house. In his world, I didn't make big moves. I deleted the voicemail. Then I listened to one from Chloe. Aubrey, this is ridiculous. You know how stressed I am about the engagement party. Now Mom and Dad are fighting because of you, and Dad is in a mood, and he's threatening to cancel the florist meeting. Thanks a lot. You always have to make everything about you. I laughed. A dry, short laugh. I made everything about me. I had spent 3 decades making myself as small as possible, so she could have the whole stage. And the one time I stepped out of the shadows, I was accused of stealing the spotlight. I didn't listen to my father's voicemails. I knew what they would say. I knew I had to speak to him eventually, but I wanted coffee first. I drove into the small town nearby, bought a black coffee and a donut, and sat on a bench by the public marina. I watched the boats bobbing in the water. My phone rang again. It was him. I took a sip of coffee. I felt the caffeine hit my system. I felt strong. I slid the bar to answer. Hello, Dad, I said. My voice was calm. It sounded deeper than usual. Where the hell are you? He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how I was. He just barked. I'm at my house, I said. Up at Lake Claire. Your house. He spat the word out like it was poison. Stop saying that. It's a rental. Your mother told me it's a rental. It's not a rental, Dad. I bought it. I closed yesterday. There was a silence on the other end. It was a heavy, dangerous silence. I could hear him breathing. I could imagine his face turning that dark shade of red he got when a waiter messed up his order. "You bought a house," he repeated slowly. "Without consulting me." "Yes. Without asking for my permission." "I'm 32 years old, Dad. I don't need permission." "You are a part of this family," he shouted. The phone crackled. "We make decisions together. Do you have any idea how this looks? Chloe is getting engaged. We are trying to present a united front, a successful image. And you go off and buy some shack in the woods. It's not a shack. It's a 3-bedroom lakefront property. And how did you pay for it?" His voice dropped, becoming suspicious. "Did you get a loan? Did you put my name on anything? If you used my name as a guarantor without asking me, Aubrey, I swear to God, I will sue you." That hurt. It shouldn't have, but it did. He thought I was a thief. He thought I was incompetent. "I didn't use your name," I said. "I used my money." "What money?" "You work in a warehouse. I work in logistics management. And I save my money. I've been saving for 10 years. "Bullshit," he said. "You can't afford a house like that. You're lying to me." "Who gave you the money? Is it a boyfriend? Did you get into debt?" "Dad, stop," I said. I didn't shout, but I put steel in my voice. "I bought the house. With my savings. It is done. The papers are signed. You are going to sell it," he said. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. "You're going to list it on Monday. We need that liquidity. Chloe's wedding is going to be expensive, and if you're sitting on a pile of cash, you should be contributing to the family, not hiding it in the woods." My hand tightened around the phone. There it was, the naked truth. He didn't care that I had achieved something. He was just angry that he couldn't spend my money on Chloe. "I'm not selling it," I said. "Excuse me?" I said, "I'm not selling it. This is my house. It is my home." "You are selfish," he hissed. "You have always been selfish. Your sister is in the most important time of her life, and you are trying to sabotage her. You're trying to make me look bad. People are going to ask why my daughter is living in the woods alone. They're going to think something is wrong with you." "Let them think that," I said. "Aubrey, listen to me. I am your father. I know what is best for you. You are not stable enough to own a home. You're impulsive. Look at this. You ran away on a random Tuesday." "It wasn't a random Tuesday," I said softly. "What?" "It was my birthday." Silence again. For a second, I thought he might apologize. I thought maybe, just maybe, the shame would hit him. "So," he said. I closed my eyes. So, I bought myself a gift," I said, "since you forgot." "Oh, don't start with the pity party," he groaned. "I'm a busy man, Aubrey. I'm running a business. I'm managing Chloe's event. I don't have time to track every single date on the calendar. If you wanted a party, you should have asked. But no, you have to be dramatic. You have to go buy a house to punish me. It's not to punish you, Dad. It has nothing to do with you. That's what you don't understand." I looked out at the water. A duck was paddling across the surface, leaving a V-shaped wake behind it. "The house is mine," I said. I spoke slowly, enunciating every word. "The money is mine. The decision is mine. If you don't sell that house," he threatened, "don't expect any help from me. Ever again." "I have never had any help from you, Dad," I said. "I paid for my own college. I got my own job. I bought my own car. And now I bought my own house. You have nothing to threaten me with." He sputtered. He actually sputtered. He had no leverage. He was pulling levers that weren't connected to anything anymore. "You are ungrateful," he said. "Don't bother coming to Sunday dinner. I don't want to see your face until you come to your senses." "Okay," I said. "Goodbye, Dad." I hung up. My hand was shaking. My whole body was trembling, actually. It was the adrenaline. It was the terror of finally saying the thing I had wanted to say for 20 years. I sat on the bench for a long time. I watched the boats. I watched the clouds move. I felt lighter. I had been disinvited from Sunday dinner. For years, that would have crushed me. I would have begged for forgiveness. I would have done anything to be let back into the circle. But now, I thought about Sunday dinner. I thought about the tension. I thought about my father critiquing my outfit. I thought about Chloe talking about herself for 2 hours while I refilled her wine glass. I thought about cleaning the dishes while they watched TV. And then I thought about my lake house. I thought about sitting on my dock with a book. I thought about cooking a meal that I wanted to eat. I thought about the silence. I realized he hadn't punished me. He had set me free. I picked up my phone and opened my contacts. I scrolled down to Dad. I changed the ringtone to silent. Then I got in my car and drove back to my house. I had a lot of work to do. I needed to buy a bed. I needed to get the electricity put in my name. I needed to buy groceries. But first, I needed to handle the fallout. Because I knew Thomas Miller. He wouldn't just stop at a phone call. He was a man who needed to win. And if he couldn't control me, he would try to destroy me. I pulled into my driveway.
My phone buzzed again.
It was a text from my cousin, Emily. Emily, hey, Ob, are you okay? Uncle Thomas just called my mom. He's telling everyone you had a mental break and ran away. He says you're unstable. I stared at the screen. The narrative was already being rewritten. He was painting over the truth. He was turning independent daughter into crazy daughter. I took a deep breath. Let him paint, I thought. I have the keys. I typed back to Emily. Me, I'm fine, Em. Better than fine. I'll send you the address.
Come visit when you can.
I walked up the steps to my porch. I didn't look back. The war had started, but I was finally fighting on my own turf. The first week at the lake house was the quietest week of my life. It was a physical sensation, the quiet. It felt like a cool cloth on a fevered forehead. I bought a mattress. I bought a coffee maker. I bought a comfortable chair that faced the window. I went to work every day.
I did my job.
I came home. I didn't have to manage anyone's ego. I didn't have to apologize for existing. But silence in the Miller family is never really silence. It's just the deep breath before the scream. I knew my father wouldn't let me go that easily. Thomas Miller didn't lose people. He discarded them. Since he hadn't discarded me, I had walked away. He had to rewrite the history to make it look like he was the victim. It started with a phone call from my Aunt Sandra on a Tuesday night. Sandra is my mother's sister. She is a kind woman, but she is weak. She hates conflict. She would rather agree with a lie than start an argument. She usually only called me on holidays. Hello, Aunt Sandra, I said. I was painting the living room wall a soft, creamy white. Aubrey, she whispered. She sounded terrified. Oh, thank God you picked up. Are you okay? Are you safe? I put down the paintbrush. I'm fine. Why are you whispering? Your father, he said you disappeared. He came over for dinner last night. He was almost crying, Aubrey. He said you had an episode. I felt a cold spike in my chest. An episode? He said you've been acting erratic for months, talking to yourself, hoarding money. He said you ran off to the woods and you're refusing to tell anyone where you are because you're paranoid. He thinks you might be having a nervous breakdown. I looked around my living room. It was clean. It was organized. The bills were paid. I had just eaten a healthy dinner. I was the most sane I had ever been. He's lying, Sandra, I said calmly. He seemed so worried, honey. He said you spent your life savings on a shack that's falling down. He said he offered to help you, to get you a doctor, and you screamed at him. It was masterful. He had taken the truth. I bought a house and established a boundary and twisted it until I looked like a monster and he looked like a saint. He was setting the stage so that if I ever spoke out against him, no one would believe me. I would just be the crazy daughter. Listen to me, I said. I am going to send you a video.
Right now.
Stay on the phone. I switched the call to FaceTime. Sandra accepted. Her face appeared on my screen, looking anxious and pale. I flipped the camera. This is the shack, Sandra, I said. I walked her through the house. I showed her the hardwood floors. I showed her the modern kitchen. I showed her the view of the lake, where the moon was reflecting off the water. I showed her my work bag by the door, ready for the morning. Does this look like the home of someone having a breakdown? I asked. Sandra was silent for a moment. It's beautiful, Aubrey. It looks very peaceful. It is peaceful. I bought it with money I saved from working overtime for 10 years. Dad didn't offer to help me. He yelled at me because I wouldn't sell it to pay for Chloe's party. Sandra sighed. It was a heavy, sad sound. She believed me. The evidence was right in front of her eyes, but accepting the truth meant accepting that her brother-in-law was a liar. And Sandra didn't have the stomach for that. He's just stressed, she said weakly. The wedding is a lot of pressure. Maybe you should just call him and apologize? Just to smooth things over. No, I said. Aubrey, no. I am not apologizing for buying a house. I am not apologizing for living my life. You can tell him I'm safe. You can tell him the house is lovely. But do not tell him where I am. If he shows up here, I will call the police." Sandra gasped. "You wouldn't." "I would. Good night, Aunt Sandra." I hung up. That was the pattern for the next 2 weeks. My phone would buzz with a message from a relative or a family friend. They all started with the same tentative tone, just checking in or thinking of you. They were fishing. They want to know if the rumors were true. Was Aubrey Miller losing her mind? I didn't get angry. I didn't write long paragraphs defending myself. I didn't scream. I just responded with facts. To my Uncle Bob, who asked if I needed a loan for treatment, I sent a screenshot of my credit score, 800, and a picture of my vegetable garden. "Doing great, Bob. Tomatoes are coming in nicely." To my cousin Sarah, who asked if I was safe alone in the woods, I sent a picture of my new security system and my very large, very calm dog I had just adopted from the shelter. His name was Buster, safe as houses. Buster says hi. I refused to engage with the drama. I became a gray rock. I gave them nothing to work with. If they wanted hysteria, they had to go to Thomas. If they came to me, they got boredom. And slowly, the narrative started to crack. My cousin Emily Rhodes was the first one to tell me the tide was turning. Emily and I had always been cool with each other, but we weren't best friends. She was observant, though. She drove up to visit me on a Saturday. She brought a bottle of wine and a housewarming plant. We sat on the dock, dipping our feet in the water. "He's losing it," Emily said, taking a sip of wine. "Uncle Thomas. He's telling the story to anyone who will listen, but he keeps changing the details. First you were depressed. Then you were manic. Then you were joined a cult. Last week at the club, he told Mr. Henderson that you stole money from him to buy this place." I stiffened. "He said I stole?"
Yeah.
"But here's the thing, Aubrey. Mr. Henderson knows you. He's used your logistics firm. He knows you're straight-laced." He looked at Thomas like he had 3 heads. Emily laughed. "And then Chloe, oh God. Chloe is posting about her engagement party nonstop, but she's complaining about the budget. People are starting to do the math. They see you living a quiet, stable life, and they see Thomas and Chloe sweating and screaming. It's making them look tacky." "Tacky," I repeated. I liked that word.
Yeah.
The desperate kind of tacky. You winning the silence war is driving him insane. He wants a fight, Aubrey. He needs you to scream back so he can point at you and say, "See? She's crazy. But you're just gardening." I looked at my hands. They were dirty from the soil. They were strong hands. "I'm done fighting, I said. "I'm just living." But Thomas wasn't done. He realized that the social pressure wasn't working. I wasn't coming back to the fold just because he badmouthed me. So he went to his favorite weapon, money. He couldn't cut me off because he didn't support me. He couldn't fire me because I didn't work for him. But he could try to make me pay for the very thing that was destroying him, Chloe's perfection. The engagement party was 2 weeks away. It was supposed to be the event of the season. My father had booked the grand ballroom at the finest hotel in the city. He had hired a 10-piece band. He had ordered thousands of white orchids. It was a celebration fit for royalty. The only problem was Thomas Miller wasn't a king. He was a man with a lot of credit cards and a lot of pride, and the math wasn't adding up. I knew he was struggling because the indirect asks started coming. It began with my mother. She called me while I was at work. She sounded breathless, like she was walking fast. "Aubrey, hi. Listen, I don't have much time. Dad is in a meeting." "Hi, Mom. We're doing the final head count for the party. Are you coming?" "I wasn't invited, Mom. Dad disinvited me. Remember?" "Oh, that was just heat of the moment," she said quickly. "Of course you're invited. Your family. Look, we have a small issue with the caterer. There was a mix-up with the deposit transfer. Dad's funds are tied up in a short-term investment until next month. We just need to bridge the gap." I typed on my keyboard, continuing my work. "How much is the gap?" $5,000. I stopped typing. $5,000 for a mix-up. "Mom," I said, "I just bought a house. I have a mortgage. I have repairs. I don't have $5,000 to lend you." "It's not a loan, really," she said, her voice getting higher. Well, think of it as your gift to your sister. You haven't gotten her an engagement gift yet. And since you're doing so well, everyone says the house is lovely. No, Aubrey, please. Dad is going to be so angry if the catering is downgraded. He promised Chloe the lobster tails. Then Dad should pay for the lobster tails, I said. Or Chloe should. Why isn't Chloe paying? Chloe doesn't have that kind of money. She's just starting out. Chloe was 30 years old. She had been just starting out for a decade. I'm sorry, Mom. The answer is no. I cannot give you money. She hung up on me. No goodbye. Just a click. 2 days later, Chloe texted me. Chloe, hey. I know things are weird right now, but I really need a favor. The DJ requires the final payment by Friday or he walks. Dad is stressing out, and I don't want to bother him. Can you cover it? It's $2,500. I'll pay you back after the wedding. I looked at the text. I'll pay you back. I knew that was a lie. Money flowed one way in this family, toward Chloe. It never flowed back. Me. I can't do that, Chloe. I'm on a strict budget with the new house. Chloe, you are such a bitch. Seriously, you have a whole house and you can't help your sister? You're ruining my party on purpose. You're jealous. Me. I'm not jealous. I'm broke. Ask Dad. Chloe, Dad is tapped out because he spent everything making this perfect for me. Unlike you, he actually cares. She admitted it. She admitted he was tapped out. The facade was crumbling. My father had spent every dime he had, and probably some he didn't, trying to curate this image of wealth. And now that the bills were actually due, he was scrambling. He had always relied on the fact that if things got tight, he could bully the family into absorbing the cost. But I wasn't absorbing it anymore. The real humiliation happened 3 days before the party. I was at my desk at work. My office phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. Aubrey Miller speaking. Hi, Ms. Miller. This is Sarah from Petals and Vines Florists. My stomach dropped. I knew Sarah. I had used her for corporate events in the past. She was the one doing the flowers for Chloe's party.
Hi, Sarah.
How are you? I'm well. I'm a bit awkward, actually, she said. I'm calling about the invoice for the Miller event this Saturday. Okay? I'm not organizing that event. I know. But the contact number on file is your father's, and he's not answering. And the voicemail is full. Of course it was full. He was dodging creditors. What's the issue, Sarah? The check bounced, Aubrey. I closed my eyes. The shame was hot and prickly, even though it wasn't my fault. He wrote us a check for the balance, $12,000, and it came back this morning. Insufficient funds. We've already ordered the orchids. They're in the cooler. But my boss says we can't load the truck on Saturday unless we have a certified cashier's check or a credit card that clears today. She paused. I know you're usually the one who handles the logistics for your family. Can you help us out? Otherwise, we have to cancel the order. This was it. This was the moment Thomas had been banking on. He assumed that if he screwed up, I would be too embarrassed to let the family name be tarnished. He assumed I would swoop in and fix it to save face. I looked at my bank account on the screen. I had the money. I could pay it. It would hurt, but I could do it. I could save the party. I could save Chloe's flowers. I could save my father from the humiliation of a flowerless ballroom. I thought about the birthdays he forgot. I thought about the graduation he missed. I thought about him calling me unstable to my entire extended family. Sarah, I said clearly, I am so sorry this is happening to you. You guys do great work. Thanks, she said, hopeful. But I am not involved in this event. I am not financially responsible for it.
Do not charge my card.
Do not look to me for payment. Oh, she said.
Her voice dropped.
Okay, but what should I do? If I don't get paid by 5 p.m., there are no flowers. Call my sister, Chloe, I said. Or call the venue and ask them to page my father. But Sarah? If they don't pay you, don't deliver the flowers. Do not work for free. Okay, she said. Thanks, Aubrey. She hung up. I sat in my chair and stared at the wall. I felt like I had just cut a rope that was holding a heavy anchor. I found out later what happened. Sarah called Chloe.
Chloe had a meltdown.
She screamed at my father. My father had to go to the bank and take out a high-interest emergency personal loan just to get the cash to pay the florist. The party happened, but the energy was wrong. I saw the pictures on social media. The flowers were there, but there were fewer of them than planned. The champagne wasn't French. It was sparkling wine from California. And my father looked terrible. In every photo, he looked sweaty. His smile was too wide, too strained. He looked like a man who was holding up a collapsing ceiling with his bare hands. People noticed. My cousin Emily texted me the night of the party. "Emily, you aren't here, and honestly, it's good you aren't. The vibe is weird. Uncle Thomas is drinking a lot. He keeps snapping at the waiters. And Chloe is crying in the bathroom because the chocolate fountain broke. Emily, people are asking where you are. Thomas is telling them you're sick, but no one buys it. Emily, he looks weak, Aubrey. For the first time ever, he looks small." I read the text sitting on my porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the fireflies. For 30 years, my father had used money to control us. He used it to buy love, to buy silence, to buy obedience. But he had run out of money. And because I had walked away, he had run out of victims. He was beginning to realize that without an audience, the show is just a lonely man screaming in an empty room. But he wasn't done. The embarrassment of the party, and the fact that I had refused to bail him out, had turned his embarrassment into rage. He blamed me. He didn't blame his poor planning. He blamed my betrayal. And since he couldn't get to my money, he decided to go after the one thing I valued more than my savings. He decided to come after my job. I always thought there was a wall between my family life and my work life. My family was chaotic, loud, and draining. My work was structured, logical, and fair. I protected that wall. I never talked about my father at the office. I never added my sister on LinkedIn. I kept my two worlds completely separate. But Thomas Miller doesn't respect walls. If he can't walk through the door, he burns the house down. It happened on a Wednesday morning, 3 days after the disastrous engagement party. I was in the middle of a quarterly review with my team. We were discussing shipping routes for the upcoming holiday season. I felt good. I felt competent. Then, my manager, Marissa Grant, appeared in the doorway of the conference room. Marissa is a serious woman. She doesn't interrupt meetings unless the building is on fire. "Aubrey," she said. Her face was unreadable. "Can I see you in my office?"
Now.
My stomach dropped. The room went silent. I stood up, smoothing my skirt, trying to keep my hands from shaking. I walked to her office. When I walked in, I saw Jackie Turner sitting there. Jackie is the head of HR. I thought I'm being fired. I didn't know why, but the old fear, the fear I lived with as a child, surged up. I assumed I had done something wrong. I assumed I was in trouble. "Sit down, Aubrey," Marissa said. She closed the door. "Is everything okay?" I asked. My voice sounded thin. Marissa sat behind her desk. She looked angry, but not at me. She picked up a piece of paper. It was a printout of an email. "We received an email this morning," Marissa said. It was sent to the general executive inbox, but it was CC'd to me and the VP of operations. "It's from a Thomas Miller." The air left my lungs. "My father," I whispered. "He claims to be concerned," Jackie said gently. She leaned forward. "Aubrey, I want you to know that we are required to investigate any claims made against employees, but we also know who you are. We know your work. What does it say?" I asked. Marissa slid the paper across the desk. I didn't want to touch it. It felt like a contaminated object, but I looked. Subject, urgent, personnel concern, Aubrey Miller to whom it may concern. I am writing to you as a concerned father. It pains me to do this, but I feel I have a moral obligation to warn you. My daughter, Aubrey Miller, who handles finances and logistics for your company, has recently suffered a severe mental break. She has been exhibiting erratic behavior, paranoia, and extreme financial irresponsibility. She has cut off contact with her family and has been making impulsive, dangerous purchases. We believe she is unstable. Given that she has access to your company's accounts, I thought it prudent to alert you. She may be a liability. I strongly suggest you audit her accounts immediately and place her on leave until she seeks the professional help we are trying to provide for her. Sincerely, Thomas Miller. I read it twice. He wasn't just venting. He was trying to get me fired. He was trying to destroy my livelihood. He knew that if I lost my job, I would lose the house. And if I lost the house, I would have to come crawling back to him. It was the most violent thing anyone has ever done to me. He didn't hit me, but he tried to starve me. I looked up at Marissa. Tears were stinging my eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of pure, hot humiliation. "It's not true," I said. "None of it is true." "We know," Marissa said firmly. I blinked. "You do. Aubrey, You've worked here for 5 years, Marissa said. You are the most organized, reliable person in this department. We just audited the books last month. Every penny is accounted for. We know you aren't stealing. And we know you aren't crazy. Jackie, the HR rep, spoke up. This email doesn't read like a concerned father, Aubrey. It reads like harassment. He's using specific corporate buzzwords to try to trigger an investigation. It's malicious. I slumped back in my chair. He's angry because I bought a house without his permission. And because I wouldn't give him money for my sister's party. Marissa's eyes widened. That's it? That's why he sent this? Yes. Marissa stood up. She looked furious. Okay, here is what is going to happen. Jackie is going to file a formal report documenting this as external harassment. We are blocking his email address from our servers. If he calls here, reception has been instructed to hang up. Security has been notified that he is not allowed on the premises. You're protecting me? I asked. Of course we are, Marissa said. You're our employee. He's just a bully. I walked out of that office 10 minutes later. I wasn't fired. I was safe. For the first time in my life, an authority figure had looked at Thomas Miller and seen him for what he really was, a sad, vindictive man. He thought his charm would work on my boss. He thought his title would scare them. But in the real world, the world where people work hard and tell the truth, he had no power. I went back to my desk. I sat down, and I realized something. He had fired his last shot. He had used the nuclear option, and it had failed. After the attempt to sabotage my job, something inside me turned to ice. It wasn't the kind of ice that breaks. It was the kind that endures. I was done being sad. I was done being afraid. I spent that Saturday morning doing admin. That's what I called it. In reality, it was an amputation. I logged into my health insurance portal. I removed Thomas Miller as my emergency contact. I deleted his number. I added my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, the one who used to give me ice cream when I was a kid. I had reconnected with her recently. She was thrilled to be listed. I called my bank. I put a password on my account that required verbal confirmation for any changes. I specifically told them, my father may try to impersonate me or claim power of attorney. He has no authorization. Then I sat down at my laptop on my kitchen counter. The lake was calm outside. I made a cup of tea. I opened my email. I drafted a message. I added the email addresses of every aunt, uncle, and cousin I had. I added family friends. I added everyone who had been whispering about me. Subject: moving forward, dear family, there have been a lot of rumors circulating about me recently. I am writing this to clear the air once and for all, so there is no confusion. I am not having a mental breakdown. I am not unstable. I am happily living in my new home and excelling at my job. However, due to recent events, specifically Thomas attempting to have me fired from my workplace by spreading false allegations, I have made the decision to permanently cut contact with Thomas and Dana Miller. This is not a decision I made lightly. It is a decision made for my own safety and peace. His actions have crossed a line from difficult family dynamics into active harassment. I love you all, and I would love to stay in touch with you individually. But please understand, I will not discuss my father. I will not attend events where he is present. I am building a life that is safe and quiet, and I am protecting it. I hope you can respect that. Love. Aubrey. I press send. I expected an explosion, but the explosion didn't come. Instead, a slow, quiet ripple went through the family. My cousin Emily replied first. Good for you, Ob. He crossed a line. We all see it. Then my Aunt Sandra. I'm so sorry he did that to you, honey. We love you. We'll see you at Christmas, separately. Even my mother's brother, Uncle Steve, who usually sided with Thomas, sent a short note. A man should mess with his kid's job. That's not right. Take care of yourself. Thomas had overplayed his hand. If he had just complained that I was ungrateful, people might have stayed on his side. But attacking my career? Lying to my boss? That was malicious. It made him look dangerous. Over the next few months, I watched from a distance as Thomas's world started to shrink. Without me there to be the scapegoat, the tension in the Miller house had nowhere to go. It turned inward. I heard from Emily that the fallout from the engagement party was bad. The florist had told other vendors about the bounce check. The caterer demanded upfront payment for the actual wedding. Thomas couldn't afford it. Chloe's wedding was postponed. She's furious. Emily told me over the phone. She's blaming Dad. She says he promised her a dream wedding and now he's humiliating her. They're screaming at each other constantly. I'm sorry to hear that, I said.
And I meant it.
I didn't want them to suffer. I just didn't want to be the sponge that absorbed their suffering anymore. Thomas tried to reach out to me a few times. He sent a letter. It wasn't an apology. It was a non-apology. Aubrey, let's put this behind us. You've made your point. We need to be a family again. Your mother misses you. I didn't reply. I burned the letter in my fire pit. His reputation in town began to shift, too. He had always been the big man. But you can't be the big man when you can't pay your bills and your daughter won't speak to you. People talk. They realized the image was a hologram. He was slowly becoming what he always feared, irrelevant. Meanwhile, my world was expanding. I wasn't just not Thomas's daughter anymore. I was Aubrey. I joined a local hiking club. I met people who didn't know my last name meant drama. I met a woman named Lena who loved books as much as I did. We started a book club. I hosted the first meeting at my lake house. 8 women sat in my living room. We drank wine. We laughed. The fire crackled in the fireplace. For a moment, I looked around the room and felt a strange sensation in my chest. I realized it was pride. I had built this. I bought the wine. I bought the chairs. I built the friendships. None of it was given to me. None of it came with strings attached. It was mine. It has been 18 months since I bought the lake house.
It is autumn now.
The trees around the lake are burning with color, red, orange, gold. It is breathtakingly beautiful. My life is very different from the life I had when I turned 32. I got a promotion at work. Marissa, my manager, retired, and she recommended me for her position. I am now the director of logistics. I have my own office with a door that closes. I have a team of 10 people. When I got the promotion, I didn't wait for a phone call from my father to validate it. I took myself out to dinner. I ordered the steak. I ordered the dessert. I celebrated myself. My finances have recovered from the down payment. My freedom fund is growing again. I bought a boat, a small pontoon boat that I take out on Sundays. I still talk to my mother occasionally, but on my terms. She calls me when she's alone. She tells me about the weather. She tells me about the neighbors. She never mentions Thomas. We have an unspoken agreement. My father does not exist in our conversations.
She sounds tired, though.
She tells me that Thomas is retired now, which is code for pushed out of his firm. They downsized. They sold the big house with the columns and moved into a condo. Chloe got married eventually. It was a small ceremony at the courthouse. I wasn't invited. I sent a card, but no check. I heard she is working as a receptionist now. The PR career evaporated when the funding dried up. I don't feel happy about their struggles.
I don't feel glee.
I just feel distant. It's like looking at a storm through a thick pane of glass. You can see the rain, you can see the wind bending the trees, but you are dry. You are warm. Yesterday, I was at the grocery store in town. I turned the corner of the aisle, and I saw him, Thomas. He was pushing a cart. He looked older. His hair was thinner, and his shoulders were slumped. He was wearing a tracksuit, which shocked me. Thomas Miller never wore sweatpants in public. He was staring at the prices of the coffee, frowning. My heart hammered against my ribs for 1 second, just one reflex beat of fear. And then it steadied. He looked up and saw me. I stood there, holding a basket of apples. I looked healthy. I looked calm. I was wearing a nice coat I had bought with my own money. He opened his mouth. I saw him struggle. I saw the old anger try to ignite, but it flickered and died. He looked at me, and he realized he didn't know me. He didn't know where I lived. He didn't know my job title. He didn't know who I loved or what I dreamed about. He had made me invisible for 30 years. And now, he was the one who couldn't be seen. Aubrey, he said. His voice was raspy. I looked him in the eye. I didn't smile. I didn't scowl. Hello, Thomas, I said. I didn't call him Dad. He flinched. He looked like he wanted to say something else. Maybe ask for help. Maybe demand an apology. Maybe just ask why. But I didn't give him the opening. I nodded once, polite and final, like you would to a stranger you once knew. Then I walked past him. I walked out of the store, into the crisp autumn air. I got into my car. I drove home to the lake. When I got there, Buster was waiting for me on the porch, his tail wagging. I unlocked the door. I walked into the kitchen and put the apples in a bowl. The house was quiet. For a long time, I thought silence was a punishment. I thought it was the sound of being forgotten. But as I stood there, looking out at the water that was perfectly still, I finally understood. Silence isn't empty. It's full. It's full of peace. It's full of safety. It's full of the person I was always meant to be. My father forgot my birthday for 32 years. But that's okay, because I finally remembered myself.